Welcome to another podcast of Field Talk against urban issues. And now, your host, U.S. Army Ranger, published author and university professor, Dr. Aaron Bryant.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Dr. Bryant Speaks. This show today is going to be an amazing show, mainly because I have a glass of red wine with me, and I'm going to take this show in strides and just relax and enjoy the topic. Now, what makes this show different tonight is because this is something that comes from the listener. I had a particular guest who actually saw one of the Instagram videos and really liked how I was communicating about being in Mexico and out there on the beach. And this particular guest really wanted me to talk about some of the things that I do in relation to tranquility. So we called this particular show Finding Peace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share some of the things that you can do that would allow you to be able to, find peace, right? Well, it's also a little more complicated than that. We're actually going to discuss things to finding your tranquility, being able to find balance, being able to try to minimize the noise in your head. Now, as you know, this show is about military veterans, first responders, anybody and everybody that is struggling with mental illness, that had to deal with trauma, combat, death, anything that relates to the things that makes it complicated for you to move forward. Now, my name is Dr. Bryant. I am your host. If you're a returning listener, I want to say thank you so much. I'm getting your emails. I'm seeing the comments on Instagram. I'm seeing the comments on YouTube. Our numbers are really good in all the podcast channels. It's amazing. I'm still enjoying this show, and I continue to get feedback from all the people just like yourself. So if you're new to the show and this is your first time listening, well, hey, nice to hear you can't hear your voice, but you can hear mine. But it's definitely nice for us to have this communication opportunity. So, just a little quick background. I myself am an ex-military veteran. I have done some things in my past as a veteran, and these things have actually came forward as I became a civilian. I'm still struggling with it, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. And those things continue to haunt me as I try to deal with marriage, parenting, and everything that we try to do as a civilian. That includes employment, finance, etc., etc. I am no different than yourself, even though they call me Dr. Bryant, but I'm asking you, just call me Aaron. Because the only reason that I have that title is so I can have an opportunity to learn and educate myself, simply so I can be able to have the knowledge and the skill sets to be able to come back here and talk with you today. Now, we cover all kinds of different things. And my background in all different sorts of areas, including being a coach with Master Life Coach, Certified Professional Coach, among all my other skill sets, none of that compares to basically the experience, the personal experience that I've had to go through to be able to sit here on this show and talk with you firsthand. So this is why I'm excited. So if you're listening to this on the podcast channel, unfortunately, you can't see the wine that I'm holding right now. If you're watching right now on YouTube and I'm pointing at you, go ahead and I'll give you a minute. Get your glass of wine, whatever your choice is, Rosé, Cabernet, Merlot. This say right here, this is a great glass of Cab. If you know me, all I drink is Cab, and I have a whole collection of it. So I'll give you a moment to do that, or just push pause and come right on back. because we're going to talk about how I use some of the techniques of finding peace, but I'm going to share a few more things that, well, I don't necessarily do or I'm still struggling with, but that's just me. You're going to be a lot better than I am, and we're going to be able to help you get to that level that's going to give you the ability to sleep at night, find that relationship, find the balance, or whatever it is that you're trying to achieve for yourself. So again, thank you again for being here, and let's figure out some things together. Now, finding peace is an interesting topic because everybody is different and everybody has different things that they struggle with. One of the things that I've enjoyed when I did my research for this show, and you guys know I always do my homework, is that finding your love and interest in the world is the foundation of what we're trying to achieve. Now, let me say that again. Finding your love and interest in the world. Now, I say that because much of what we struggle with is because something is not quite there. Something that we don't agree with, something we're not happy with, something that's disconnected. So whatever it is that we're looking for, we want to find that interest, right? That will bring us a little closer to what we want. One of my favorite people, Oprah Winfrey. I think she's probably been a lot of people's favorite person. But I read a quote from her that I really liked and I want to share with you. She said, "Peace of mind doesn't require peace and quiet." You get that? Peace of mind doesn't require peace and quiet. So basically, what we're searching for as far as that peace of mind, it doesn't mean you have to lock yourself in a room. It doesn't mean you have to, tell everybody to get out, isolate yourself, and put you in a situation so you can be able to just think. No, that's not necessarily what she's saying, and it's definitely not necessary for you to find peace of mind. So that's why we're going to explore all the different options out there that relates to finding peace. Now, why am I doing this topic? Well, most of my listeners, a majority of my listeners, well, let's just say many of my listeners, they're basically veterans or first responders, people that are dealing with trauma. I mean, that's kind of the essence. That's how this whole show came to be. And one of my most popular and most common topics relate to PTSD. Now, let's understand what exactly that is, because although many of my shows break it down, I want this particular show to be very clear, because as we're looking for peace and trying to find that balance, that tranquility, we got to understand what we're trying to overcome, right? Okay, so PTSD has a lot of elements to it, and we're not going to go into all the details, but I'm just going to give you a quick snapshot of some of the things that somebody suffering from PTSD, what they have to actually deal with. So we have intrusive thoughts, nightmares, avoiding reminders of an event, like being able to see something and it takes you back. There's actually memory loss, TBI, traumatic brain injury, negative thoughts about self, sometimes, and the world. A person with PTSD may isolate themselves with self-isolation. That person has anger challenges or irritability issues. They reduce interest in their activities. They don't want to be involved in things anymore. There's also hypervigilance. There's, that level of alertness. Basically, us vets, we struggle with that all the time, where we're constantly looking left and right, looking at our six, because somebody may be around because of what we've experienced. Difficulty concentrating. That's another one. Your brain is always going, you're always overreacting, and sometimes you cannot focus. Then there's insomnia. Insomnia is simply because you can't sleep, and a lot of times because you have night terrors or you're afraid to close your eyes. So it's hard for you to calm down and be able to get rest. There's vivid flashbacks. I just talked about that a little bit, but you have the night terrors. And the thing, you close your eyes and those things come back haunting you on a regular basis. You also avoid people and places. I've mentioned that by basically avoiding certain areas that you don't want to go to. So you have things that you just simply don't want to either see, or things that might remind you. A person with PTSD may cast blame, difficulty feeling positive. Again, maybe blame to self or is blaming others, but that difficulty of feeling positive is because you're always feeling moody or down. You're hard on yourself. There was once upon a time you were this and now you're that. You also have exaggerated startle responses when things happen and makes you jump. Again, suffering from that is very common. And I mentioned this in the past on another show, risky behaviors. Doing things that, well, you know what, you probably shouldn't do it because of this outcome or the circumstances related to it. So PTSD has a lot more than this, but these are just some of the more popular and common things that somebody with trauma is going through. So for us to find peace, that's a lot to get through. So we have our work cut out for us, don't we? Well, I should say, if you're the person, you have your work cut out. I know myself, man, I'm always trying to deal with this. The interesting thing is, I, for many years had no idea that this was even a challenge for me. When I came out of the military, I thought I was just like anybody else, and I was going to just reacclimate to society and move forward. But constantly, over and over, I started running into challenges and issues, and I had no idea. I thought I was just screwing up. I thought I was not making the best of circumstances. I thought my choices were just bad decisions. And they were, face value, they were. But I wasn't aware that there was a deeper source behind this that had some relation to why I was doing what I was doing. And again, when you start to understand, you start to have the ability to figure out how to get through it. And then when you figure out how to get through it, what can you do to be able to find that peace, to be able to live? And that's where I'm at every day. And I say that every day because it doesn't stop. You have to literally keep pushing forward. When you look up online and you look up different things about finding peace or, looking for life or all these different things, there's a lot of books out there, a lot of life coaches and spiritual guidances and all sorts of things that are providing tools for you. But I always enjoy looking at the quotes. It's like there's a whole lot of quotes that's available for you to read. And you know what? It's quite uplifting. It's actually pretty enjoyable. Now, I'm not going to read any of them for you. I gave you the one from Oprah because I thought that sort of stood out because of what she said, because I always figured, well, I need to lock myself somewhere and just be able to just quiet and give me the ability. But no, that's not the case. In fact, that's very temporary. It's like a Band-Aid. You got to dig deeper and you have to find more ways to be able to develop techniques that will stay within you to carry forward. Okay. Now, to my listener, who's the reason that I'm doing this show, you know, I want to say thank you. I'm glad that that you actually reached out to me, and my video on the beach actually, you know, gave you some enthusiasm. And one of your comments was that you felt like everything was going so well. And as you guys know, all my listeners, you know, I'm always going to be honest with you. And no, not everything is the way I would like it to be. As I said, this is an ongoing effort. And like most people, I am always struggling, pushing through, trying to figure things out. I mean, I can fake it pretty good when I'm on this microphone and I got these headphones on and I'm talking to you. And it seems like, you know, hey, Dr. Bryant, he seems to have everything online. But truth of the matter is, I'm always trying to keep a conscious effort of what's going on with me so I cannot lose control. My doctor, she doesn't like that I drink, and she tells me to keep it to a minimum. And I already know that you're not supposed to smoke, but I like my cigars because I won't do weed or marijuana. So for me, my cigars gives me some aspect of calmness. And then I have other vices that I use. But the truth of the matter is you have to find what works for you. And I'm going to share some techniques and things that it does work for me, and some things that I've read about that you can be more than happy to pick from. But I will tell you what works because I practice what I preach. But remember, this is very important. Remember, this is an ongoing process. This is not something that you do and all of a sudden, all your problems are gone. When I got in the military and I did my time, it was many, many years before I even realized that anything was happening with me. VA sure as hell was not in the best situation that it was in. And my challenges of life, it appeared to be just bad choices and bad decisions. And I appeared to be just a bad husband, father, et cetera, et cetera. So not to say that's probably still not the case, but to understand how many years that this was embedded in me of all the problems that I have incurred, it's going to take just as many years, if not more, to be able to find that peace.
Field Talk Against Urban Issues, formerly called Dr. Bryant Speaks, is a podcast show that provides information, programs, and experts that challenge mental health issues.